I also wish to touch on some issues on education, because actually I'm a degree student at NIE right at the moment. So that's why I'm particularly interested in education factor. I understand that recently, like at the National Day Rally, we've actually mentioned about having 7 more schools for IP, which honestly I'm very supportive because of the fact that Victoria School, which was my secondary school, is included. But at the same time, I actually thought to myself, like, with the increasing IP schools, okay, I actually thought of the fact that wouldn't there be more students who are actually in a closed system whereby like everybody from the secondary school will go to the same JC, and we are not having enough exposure to the students of other walks of life and other schools. And that's so like, I actually always ponder about this, whereby like, would this actually promote elitism among students and among growing adults in Singapore? I mean, I think elitism has actually been an issue that's a few years ago with certain individual bloggers, okay, from a certain school, from a certain IP school, and we already had that problem before. But with more IP schools and with with more closed system schools like that, will it cause elitism problem to worsen? Thank you.
You can argue in a way to broaden it, because before you have SEP schools, you only have a few IP schools. So that's very close to just a few schools and a few students. So the idea is to widen this, and if it works, you can have more and more such IP schools. And there are schools where you can have an IP stream, you can have a non-IP stream, so that the students in the same school can take 2 routes to go and do the O or A level. So these are all ideas which I think are worth doing. I don't think this is the end of the matter. We've got to see which works best for us. If it works to have more IP schools, after a while, you may find that at the margin, IP is not for everybody. Then you may stick to a certain number. So in schools, they're prepared, to think through the problems, and we think they are good, try on a few schools, and then do more, I think, to advance the interests of the students. But this is another example. When you do certain things, there are other consequences. See, when we did SEP school, which was a good thing, you find that we created a problem of having only Chinese in the school. Because by definition, SEP school is meant to create a Chinese kind of a culture atmosphere. So very few Indians will go. You have 1 or 2 Indians are prepared to learn Mandarin and to absorb the Chinese culture in the SEP school. Very few Malays will go. In fact, hardly any Malays. So the consequence of trying to raise the standard of Chinese through SEP schools is that the people there don't mix around with the others. So how do you solve this? Then we reason to ourselves, if they live in HDB flats, at least they intermingle. And the men will do national service, they intermingle. So better to have SEP schools and let them mingle in national service and in the HDB flats. But you find that with income going up, the better ones move to condominium. Build to order. Build to order is, certain class of Singaporeans, high income group. Then your EC is also for certain income groups. If you want those who could afford to buy EC to stay in HDB flats, then they may not want to. They'll just buy condominium outside. If they can't buy, they just complain, you see. So, no, it's a big problem. Because on the one hand, you want all to be very socialistic, to be living together, very egalitarian. On the other hand, human nature is such, I want to be different from you. I want to be better than you. So these are the forces in society. But elitist is the wrong word to use. It means that people do not, in other society, other parts of the society mingle. They are snobbish, they are on their own. You find that in Singapore, those who have done well, in fact, come back to help others. So elitist is not a word which I like. I think meritocracy, to extract the best out of the system, to maximize the potential of people in many fields, I think that's what we're aiming at. But education, we are transforming the whole system, but it's not frozen. I think it's going to move forward. Okay, yes.
As I understand it, the IP system is actually meant to allow a student to broaden their education without being so caught up with passing the O levels and getting ready for A levels. So you've got a whole 6 years to prepare for A levels without having to interrupt, because most schools will, after first half of Sec 4, they all stop and all concentrate on O level. So that was the intent of the IP. Can I just ask Leonard, would you think it would be better not to have the 7 IP programs running in the 7 schools? Would you think it's better that way, or smaller number or something like that?
to be very honest, I'm actually very envious of IP students because of the fact that they do not do O-level and they do have more time to learn more. Like, in fact, I just finished my school holiday, and I was really envious of IP students who came to my institute, National Institute of Education, to actually learn more about research work in plasma, in laser, and other related topics, which I'm actually very envious, because I was the cohort that was just before Victoria and Victoria GC at IP.
So you feel it's a better system?
I do agree that it's definitely very enriching, but I'm just very interested because the fact that I will be a teacher in a few more years' time, I am afraid of how my students will actually grow up to be just in a closed system whereby every day they only mix with the same Victorians.
It's with SIDA, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yes, with SIDA, our long-term sister school that is never that nice to us.
So do you think it's better to not have it?
No. No, his point is if you don't mix, it's closed, the thing is bad.
Okay.
So in the IP
yes,
system, it's
that's
good
my
for the
point.
student, but they must find ways where they interact with others.
Yes.
Like they're coming for a dialogue, they're helping in a volunteer group. I think that's important. And then, we were in the past, including ourselves, just mugging for examinations. The day the exam is over, we all throw away our books. And they probably forget your chemistry, physics, which I have forgotten. It's no use to me, because I did not go and do science after that. So what's the point? So you should have actually gone and do something which you are interested in, which you remember for life because you're interested in those subjects. So IP, I think, is good for students who are curious. And they want students to be curious to explore things on their own.
Yeah, personally, I feel that it's how you run the IP program that will cause whether it result in student being closed. I think this is something that I have two daughters who are both in IP, one in Hwa Chong now, the other is RGS. I think the important thing is how the school run the programs and how the school encourage the student to mix with outside school and have other programs that allow them to have exposure to other parts of society. And in fact, having taken away the worry about having to mark for the Sec 4 exam or O-level exam, they have opportunities to go to do other things. And I think many of the schools, they do have, for example, student attachment programs to, say, the MP or to a community involvement programs, where actually they are very involved and quite intensive type of programs that expose them to many other aspects of the society, which actually will help them to appreciate that there are different walks of life in the society. There are less fortunate people in the communities. I think these are the ways to help them to be more open-minded. It's how you run the program. It's not the program itself. But it's good that we are aware of this and we are mindful so that the unintended consequence will not happen.